All right, everybody, welcome back to Matt Money. Today we're driving into the unmanned aerial vehicle space, and today we're accompanied by the CEO, president, co-founder of Draganfly, Cameron Chell. So welcome, Cameron.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Cameron has been the co-founder of a number of Nasdaq exits. Draganfly has been the leader of the drone industry and solutions for over 20 years, and with a wide array of customers and applications. One can find Draganfly on the Nasdaq or Canadian stock exchanges under ticker symbol DPRO. Cameron, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. The small area vehicle environment seems to be exploding with interest and venture capital. Flying cars actually are becoming a reality, which is pretty crazy. I know that's not your area of expertise, but even with the things that you specialize in at Draganfly, like unmanned aerial vehicles, drones to be specific, seems to be becoming more intricate, and the use applications seem to be expanding into a lot of different industries. And so what has this done to the space over the past 5 to 10 years? And how do you see this expanding out for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so like I said, we've been lucky enough to be doing this for over 25 years, primarily in public safety, but also in agriculture and industry and energy and a number of long-form infrastructure, mapping, survey, and such. But what we've really seen in the last couple of years is basically the regulations are opening up so that the main thing that can happen is beyond visual line of sight. And so what that means is that, the current environment typically is, one pilot, one drone, and maybe an inspection or a mapping or a survey mission or a delivery mission or something like that, as long as you can see it. But opening up the industry or the airways so that these drones can fly beyond visual line of sight.
Oh.
That's really been the key factor. So, every North American drone company has gone, commercial drone company has gone out of business in the last 25 years, except Draganfly. And the reason being is that they all tried to scale premature of those regulations. And so those regulations are now coming into effect. So you really see the drone industry, starting to take off and getting ready to scale. And so fortunately, after 25 years, we're in the right place at the right time. And then of course, the advent of the unfortunate circumstances in Ukraine have really demonstrated, the future of drones and the future of autonomy, and their possibility in humanitarian battlefield and logistics. And so all of this is compounding into this, multi-billion-dollar growth that's now starting to unfold.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned there specifically about, keeping the ball in the air. That's what Simon Sinek always talks about, like infinite games and making sure, the purpose of business is being in business. So it's pretty cool to kind of hear that, that's a reality of life. I mean, sometimes these companies, they come in for good purposes, but sometimes it's at the wrong time. And so being able to outlast everybody else is now giving you an opportunity to build on top of that and give you the expertise and head start of 25 years, which is awesome to see. So you touched on a little bit. So the industries and applications that have caused this massive expansion over the last 5 years, where do you see the sectors being most vital in the next 5 to 10, now specifically that you don't necessarily have to have visual aid of the drones themselves?
Yeah, the primary sectors for the areas that we work in, which is small UAV, right? So smaller systems. Now these systems are still, 9 feet across, or
big,
the size of coffee tables. They're not the small little toy drones by any stretch of the imagination, or the prosumer drone. But for these, the big applications are defense, emergency services, so first responders. So drone is a first responder. Inside of the next 3 years, drones will be showing up before ambulances do in many cases, right? To provide visual oversight, communication, situational awareness for the trucks and for the emergency responders that are getting there, to do environmental monitoring, situational awareness, oversight, danger management, safety controls, different things like that. And then, of course, long-form infrastructure, so power lines that have been, created wildfires and created billions of dollars of damage and harm over the last number of years. They're doing a lot of wildfire work now. Pipeline inspections, environmental monitoring is a big one. Agricultural. There's really, delivery we're not as keen on the consumer delivery side of things, but certainly logistics delivery, some cargo delivery, ship to shore delivery, delivery within controlled airspaces or industrial sites, or medical delivery, things like EpiPens, AEDs, organs, blood, pharmaceuticals. Like all of that is just, I mean, I could go on, but those are the ones where we see use cases and actually budgets being attributed towards now.
Okay, and then that makes a lot more sense now that you're kind of saying, that you used to have kind of visual track. It's like, well, now at least what I was seeing, a lot of your drones have, long lives and ability to travel, let's say 40 odd miles an hour, the ability to move that over a long distance to get any sort of supplies or provide any visual aid in a place that might be remote, that you can't actually physically be there. I can truly start to see the development of that. Will AI have a huge tailwind for this industry, or has that already kind of been embedded? I know that, the AI term gets thrown around a lot, but I mean, how is this going to be able to help you guys move into, I guess, the next generation of drones that are being built today?
Yeah, well, ultimately, Draganfly's strategy, we've been building airframes and software and autonomous systems and such for 20 plus years.
Right.
And we started moving into AI about 4.5, maybe 5 years ago, primarily around machine vision, which at some of those initial levels really wasn't AI. It was just really good machine vision work. And now we're starting to progress into more AI type work. But ultimately, and I'll give you an example of that in a second, but ultimately Draganfly, even though we're a hardware software services developer company of software of drone solutions, ultimately we believe ourselves to be a data company. So nothing collects data better than a drone. Like maybe your iPhone, maybe. But literally, when you put a drone up in the air, inside of 5 minutes, you can do everything from map underground pipes to millimeter accuracy of buildings, bee pollen in the air, carbon monoxides, population counts. You name, like, it's just unbelievable what you come up with and what you can do. And so because data is so important, especially to our commercial customers, that becomes the most strategic thing for them. So if we fly a LiDAR mission or any number of missions for a forestry company with our sensors and the drones that we build, we're not just delivering them, an inventory of their reserve, but we're delivering them a yield analysis. We're delivering them topographics of where they can cut roads in. We're delivering them environmental monitoring around, hey, what are the carbon monoxides in the air? What are the bee pollens? What are the other factors? What are the hues of the trees, which might give indication around dryness or pine beetle infestation? Or this is just a forestry company, right? So when you deliver that terabytes and terabytes of data after you fly a mission to them, they quickly come to realize that's the most important data they have. So we see things like those organizations now looking to store that data with us and us to manage that data and their permissions and help with analysis and so ultimately that's for us where the drone industry is going. And what makes us different than just a data company is the fact that we can fly missions and equip sensors and apply, data science and ultimately AI into all of those data sciences to be able to give them data that makes them more competitively advantaged. And so whether that's a government customer that we're working for, or an oil company, or an environmental company, or a forestry, whatever the case is, that's really the strategic advantage of drones. So, I mean, our drones today can do incredible things in search and rescue operations. They can do things, from the camera to determine if there's a respiratory rate or a heart rate or blood pressure or blood oxygen levels. And so, the frontline workers can triage where they should be spending their time, or how serious are those victims in shock, or so these are all the different types of applications that AI is now coming to the forefront of. But it's a little bit early, certainly in terms of autonomous operation, weather management, complex systems and other communication happening around the drones then being able to make decisions, which is really data-based, but all those different inputs is kind of base level AI type stuff, and it will be very important in the drone industry.
Okay. Yeah, no, that opens up a whole new kind of avenue that I wasn't really entirely thinking of, which is I just anticipated that the use of drones or a lot of these companies were kind of very much the rudimentary piece that you were talking about. They had to be in visualized side and visual side and not be able to be outside of that sort of realm. And that it was up to sort of the companies that you were partnering with to provide some of the geologic interpretations or the pipeline inspections and stuff of the like. But what you're actually trying to implement is combining the data that you are receiving with the software, with the drones to be able to kind of come up with kind of like almost like an end-to-end sort of product delivery, right? Where you're kind of starting with the drones and being able to go throughout the entirety of whatever pipelines might be in service, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and sometimes we work with a service partner, and sometimes we work with other software that's maybe very, very tailored to a specific industry. But ultimately, that flying airframe that carries it's the focal point that brings all of that together. And certainly the subject matter experts that are within the company still do the final interpretation.
Absolutely.
But the better data we can provide for that final interpretation, the stronger of a partner we can be. So I think we understand our value proposition in that. And we're just fortunate that, the airframes that we create allow us to be in a really strong value proposition position.
Okay, no, that's really good insight. Now I want to dive a little bit deeper into specifically Draganfly, what differentiate your products, say, from other ones that might be on the market. And so you guys have had a plethora of press releases that I don't want to give URLs or anything like that, but I want to highlight specifically the cool things that have come out, not just within the last month, but the cool things you've been involved in. You already mentioned Ukraine. You mentioned the fires, the wildfires that were happening up in Canada. But the Commander 3XL, with respect to the orders from the U.S. military, the State Geologic Survey approved the Commander 3XL for their use. You already mentioned the vital intelligence technology a little bit ago for use in the state corrections agencies. The hybrid drone also coming out, which is built on top of the Commander 3XL platform. And then the collaboration between you and Promo Drone, specifically about the Starling X2. Where do we start? I mean, what that's a lot of cool things that have come out and a lot of great use cases. I mean, where do you see the limitations? Like yeah, I'm just kind of curious. There's just so much information that's been unraveled, I guess, and put out by you guys over the past month, and then obviously with the work that you guys have been doing in Ukraine and the wildfires. Like, where do you even start?
Well, I think our product team, which is just amazing. We're so lucky to have a bench with a couple decades plus of experience. And I think when we really started evolving our product line about 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago, really, when we did our go public transaction, and we knew that we were going to have to do two things. We're going to have to evolve the product line, and we knew we were going to have to build out capacity. And those are really, those are the two key things to meet this incredible demand that's now come into the market. And so what we did with our product line is we chose to go down a direction where we made a product that we call the Swiss Army knife of drones. So our Commander 3XL, it's a 22-pound drone. It carries about 24 pounds of payload. So it's incredibly efficient, maybe one of the most efficient, drones on the market. But it also is under 55 pounds with a full payload, which is really important because it avoids you having to go after a bunch of special waivers in order to fly the unit. Now, and so your typical commercial licensing is fine, and you can fly around people, and it has all the right kinetic measurements so that it's an aircraft. It's dangerous, but it's not it's not overly dangerous, if I can characterize it that way. So that Swiss Army knife of drones is really important because right now there's likely 100 integrations for this that now fit onto it. So we kind of think about it like the Jeep of World War II or the Hummer of the 90s. It's your utility vehicle that now has enough capacity in terms of flight time, load capacity, et cetera, in order to, and battery life to sustain multiple sensors at the same time. So it's highly, highly efficient. You can carry multiple sensors at the same time. You can do drop-down systems. You can do winch systems. You can do all kinds of things. So you don't have to go like buy 5 drones for your fleet to do 4 different things. And, you can have one set of standard batteries. You can have, pilots that are all trained on one type of drone. These are all things that drop your operational costs and make this an easier purchase decision. And so that's why we're able to see so many different use cases now come out on it, whether this becomes a flying billboard, whether it's delivery for insulin into besieged cities and conflict areas, whether it's delivering incredibly sensitive data for pipeline management or emergency management. I mean, that's really what this drone was designed to do. So much so that we actually had very strong demand and have now adapted it so that you can actually put an engine on it as a payload. And so now all of a sudden this 50-minute flight time can go to 3-hour flight time, right? And it can still have 8 pounds of payload, even with an engine put on it. So, and this engine is a fuel injected, water cooled engine that can fly pretty much any fuel. So kerosene / Jet A, diesel, regular, unleaded, like anything that you basically have that could burn, so if you're doing a lot of field work, you can put it in this thing and it flies. It's got 15,000 foot plus altitude capability. And so it's that kind of insight and capability to engineer those types of products that allow us to really be able to meet the challenges of the use cases that are out there. Right. So, and that just comes through experience, which we're very, very fortunate to have.
Yeah, no, I see that having a lot of military applications for being able to quickly move things across, military zones, remote applications, let's say the desert, if somebody gets bit by a snake and they're, hours away from being able to get somewhere, but they only have 45 minutes until the venom really kicks in, small things like that this kind of helps enable. And with that potential of flying very fast and having the ability to fly for extended periods of time, can really be integrated together to be able to have.
It's not a typical looking platform. So this is the one that's right above me here, and a lot of drones are kind of symmetrical in terms of their octagons or squares and type thing. And this is a rectangular format for lots of reasons, because we wanted to be able to fit multiple sensors on it. But really, this whole elongated area here, that's just one big this thing is a flying battery. Right? It's really, what it is. And everything else is lightweight on it, because we really wanted to maximize the amount of sensors, the speed, the payload capacity, everything that you can do on it, so much so that it was also designed so that in that area, you can stick a gasoline engine, right? Or a combustion engine, I should call it, up right underneath there too, and completely change the profile of it. So it's really becoming a game changer, I think, for the industry and certainly for the company.
That's pretty cool. And I don't want to get into the over 20 patents that you guys have. I mean, I see a lot of them just specifically on that particular, the Commander 3XL that you guys are releasing. And I was looking through the investor presentation. It was pretty impressive. Things from 2012 all the way till more recently in 2022. A lot of different patents that I see specifically highlighting on that. But I know you can't give too much detail about forecasts. I know, the board and, the investor relations guys don't really like to talk too much about that, being a public company. But what markets we've talked about it a little bit, but what markets do you truly foresee Draganfly expanding into that might have this pivotal movement going forward?
Yeah. So, our revenues have been have grown steadily over the last couple of years, nicely, fairly well managed and controlled. We've had to take the time to build out 2 new facilities in order to now meet that capacity. In fact, this week our second facility opens. We're really excited about it. It's state of the art. It's just it's amazing, and that's going to allow us to really start. We're not even going to come close to meeting the demand, but start to keep up.
Yeah,
a little
Cameron.
Bit. Yeah. So I feel good that we're on a good path for this quarter really good path, then a really, really good path for next quarter. And that's all the guys will let me say, but it feels good. You know, yeah, like it or not, what's really driving small UAS is the defense industry now. Now this was not the case even a year and a half ago. So, you know, the defense organizations, you know, have not been overly keen on small UAS as a broad tactical or strategic option. They've really thought, you know, big man systems, satellites, integrated comms, and then, you know, there's been certainly some work at a patrol level, if you will, or maybe even at a company level with some UASs, but not, you know, nothing like what we've seen, what's happened in Ukraine. And so what we've seen in Ukraine is that everything from 5,000 feet down, right, in terms of airspace or air dominance, is small UAS. It's game changing. It completely changes the theater of war. It's as big as the advent of the airplane itself, certainly bigger than probably the advent of the tank in its day in World War I. And because even if you've got really big sophisticated systems, you know, 5,000 feet down air dominance, which is usually the area that dictates, you know, the advantage in theater, is now small UAS and can be driven and dictated by, you know, players that aren't necessarily the largest or the biggest players out there. And so we now see really big budgets, you know, moving towards small UAS tactics and strategy and such. And so it's an unfortunate circumstance, but that's just what's happening now in the world. But what that's also doing is it's even giving greater light to how these can be used and adopted into the commercial space. And the innovation that's happening in the defense space is really already driving acceptance and innovation into the commercial space. So we're seeing really, you know, just amazing sensors being used in different things like pipeline inspection or wildfire inspection or wildfire mitigation or suppression even around, and a larger acceptance by people understanding that the good that these can do. So it's, yeah, you know, all of these areas are growing, but defense is really driving the innovation around it, which often happens.
Yeah, I did see it wasn't just one contract, but looked like several that you had press releases over the past several months with respect to that kind of opening up. And so I've been looking at, you know, what's been going on with kind of this new modern you know, war zone that we kind of have with respect to Ukraine and all those other applications, looking at Palantir and several other companies that are assisting in that landscape as well. So yeah, it's interesting how it's been very different comparatively to, I think, what people are used to, say over the past 2 world wars and stuff of the like. So interesting how dynamics have sort of changed. Well, Cameron, I want to say thank you. I think that's a good place to stop. And I want to thank you for your perspective on the UAV or US markets. And let's have you on again soon after you've had some more progress.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.